Greetings, viewers. I apologize in advance for the belated nature of these videos. I was traveling and visiting countries overseas, which is an experience I highly recommend. There's actually no substitute for being in another space, seeing other cultures, interacting, eating the food, drinking the coffee, listening to the language, and trying to understand the perspective that's not your own. It's a very productive experience. The second issue of Uplink is now up, and this version is now behind a paywall, unfortunately. So this is part of the Patreon. So I'm running a Patreon, trying to raise funds to keep this project going. By the way, I'm very serious about Uplink's monthly status. From now on, I will be coming out with content every month. Around the 10th or 11th, it'll go up. So come heck or high water, it'll be there. The way I'm going to solve the access problem is, because I don't want to limit the audience, patrons will get first 3 months access. So after 3 months, the very first issue will go online, and I'll make that available on some free site somewhere, because I do want the world to be able to see the content and also to be able to support the video game artists that I'm talking about and working with their endeavors. So 3 months is a fair compromise. So we'll see how that goes and see how that works, but that's the plan for now. Now, the content, second issue, 3 articles. One on Cyberpunk 2077. So this is the latest epic adventure from CD Projekt. Now, CD Projekt, Polish developer, this is a firm that anyone who studies video games or follows digital media, you really need to pay close attention to them. They are rewriting the book on video game culture. And their greatest innovation that they've come up with, and this is because they're a Polish studio, they're from a middle-income nation, and they kind of get what it's like to be culturally marginal in the world of digital media, and therefore that can be an advantage because that gives you an insight as how big transnational audiences are. They're creating 2077 for a transnational audience. Their business plan is, we want to sell this video game to 3 billion people. And it's absolutely brilliant, and they're doing all the things necessary to make that happen. I'm not going to give away any trade secrets. There's certain aspects of their strategy that I actually don't want to talk about. And even my article, I don't mention directly. There are reasons which, once the game comes out, I'll explain more about why that is and so forth. But the reason is they're taking the problem seriously, and they're coming up with some very innovative solutions. So they're a firm, and that's a video game. It's not just going to be one game, by the way. This is the beginning of an enormous franchise. Cyberpunk is going to be one of the most interesting genres, and I think will actually define the next decade of cultural production. Cyberpunk is going to be where it's at, because it's going to be the science fiction literature of resistance to transnational capitalism. Oh yes! It's going to look like Cyberpunk, but it'll actually be resistance against this very unfair, exploitive, and very toxic social order, which is now in serious crisis all across the planet. No one is doing well. Only the billionaires are doing well, and the rest of us are in trouble. So there's the first article. The second article is on Danganronpa. Fantastic video game series from Japan, Spike Chunsoft. And the basic story with Danganronpa is it's one of the best murder mystery / visual novels ever created. And the story is there's some young people and they're trapped in some kind of school or resort, and then a killing game breaks out, and they're forced to literally compete to kill each other in this twisted game that's being televised, or someone is watching them, or we don't quite know what's going on. The point is, the series is a wonderful metaphor for a completely deranged transnational capitalism, which sort of advertises, and you kind of watch the destruction of the planet. Now, like we are literally watching the destruction of our ecosphere day by day. We can watch and see it, and like, oh yeah, Exxon is doing that, and the state oil companies are doing that, and we're inside of a killing game called plutocratic capitalism, which of course is about to annihilate the ecosphere. And so we need to take action as a species. All 7.8 billion of us need to start to take this seriously and come up with solutions. So Danganronpa is an incredible metaphor of this. And the reason it's such a good series is it doesn't just talk about the killing game, it talks about the problem of solidarity. How do you trust people? How do you get people to not kill each other for resources? How do you develop solidarity? So it's a meditation on how difficult that is, and maybe some ways to think about that. Very well done series. Third article, which is for the $5 upper tier subscription. So 2 tiers, $3 regular, $5 maximum. So the $5 you get the third article, which is a story on game production. It's actually looking at Night in the Woods as an exemplar of a new form of video game production. And it actually fits with the Cyberpunk 2077 story, because that's a high-end version of the transnational audience, but Night in the Woods is by a small team, and that's for sort of the low end or the plebeian end of video game production. And that's a studio that's making some interesting changes to how we think about audiences in production and creating what I would call a transnational realism, a new kind of interactivity that's for all of us, and it takes the issues that affect large numbers of people seriously. And therefore it's an interesting model of a new kind of cultural production that's coming all over the planet, one that's not controlled by corporations, it's not for profit, it's created by people, for people, of the people, and it radiates a kind of a democratic promise because of that.